Hello and welcome to Decoding Attachment Styles. If you've never heard this podcast before, I want to welcome you. I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, prosperous, love-fulfilling new year. You've got this. And thank you for supporting this podcast over the last 2 years, I believe we've been around. For those of you who've not heard the announcement as yet, Decoding Attachment Styles made it in the top 30 on attachment theory podcast. So thank all of you for supporting it, for sharing it, for subscribing to it, for leaving your comments, for leaving reviews, because that is how this podcast was able to make it into the top 30. So thank you. I've got so much planned for you this year, and I'm super excited about it. But first, let's talk about today's topic. We all want to understand the avoidant attached ex, because when they move on, when they break up, we call it a discard, which I like to call more a withdrawal or just a breakup. Why I don't like using the word discard? That is because when we use the word discard on us, we start to tell ourselves that we are not worthy. Because what is it we actually do discard? We discard things like trash. Right? And we're not trash. We're special, precious human beings. So just be careful this year on the words that you use on yourself. Make a commitment to yourself that you're going to be kind to you. You're going to use the right words to describe your feelings and who you are. And remember, your feelings are not who you are. But on this particular episode, I don't want to stray too far. We're talking about avoidant attached ex. We often say, my avoidant ex moved on like I never existed. But let's talk about what's really happening. I'm someone who likes to debunk some of the popular beliefs out there, things that are being said on social media, the way we misinterpret information and share that. Because what I've found is that attachment styles are not so cut and dry. The nuances is what we have to pay attention to. And there's a lot of false information, assumptions that are out there, people projecting their situations onto other people. You want to listen to information that helps you to become more aware, more empathetic, but also helps you to set boundaries. We don't want to be out here bashing on anyone. It doesn't get us anywhere. Understanding and awareness will help us to release the other human being without staying in that place of anger that doesn't serve us. Now, what are people saying about the avoidant attached ex who moved on? And it appears as though they're moving on like you never existed. People will say, they forgot about me overnight. Or, I meant nothing to them. Or, they have no feelings. Or, they never loved me at all. And that is not what is happening inside of an avoidant attached person. Those of you who are joining me for the first time, you might not have heard me say, I've had an anxious attachment style for years. And so I've said these things. I've said they've forgotten about me overnight, or how could they forget me that easily? Or I meant nothing to them, or they never really loved me because they don't reach out. They don't care. They just don't show any love. From the outside, it would look like the avoidant attached is in no contact. And that means they're not looking back. Or it may look like they're moving on immediately, especially if we find out that they're on dating apps or we find out that they're seeing other people. We think that they're moving on right away. If they're not reaching out, if they don't text to check in, it looks like they're acting unbothered. We might look at their social media feed, and we're going to see pictures of them out with friends. And we start to think, well, they kind of look like they're living their best lives. And we start to feel they're acting like we just never existed. And I know that pain. It's really, really, really hurtful. So your feelings are valid. Your pain is valid. And we want to be clear and real about that. Being left and watching them act like everything is fine, it is painful. It hurts. It feels like you're being erased. And that can be traumatic. This podcast. It's not about invalidating what you're experiencing. It's about understanding what's actually happening for them so that you know you're not forgotten. And that this doesn't have to be as painful as it is for you right now. Avoidant attached persons don't forget. They have really healthy, functional brains like most of us. What they're generally doing is they're suppressing, they're compartmentalizing, they're avoiding the pain, they're distracting themselves, and they're shutting down emotions. And they're not erasing you from their memory. These acts, they're really just temporary. No one can really compartmentalize forever. No one can really suppress forever. No one can really distract themselves forever. No one can really avoid pain forever. You cannot shut down your emotions forever. It can only be done temporarily. But what are they thinking? A lot of people reach out. In most consultations, it's really just to find out, what is my ex thinking? Well, at first, they're not going to really think about it. They're going to be thinking that it's just better to keep moving, stay busy. They're thinking, I can't feel this right now. I can't afford to feel this right now, or I'm going to shut down and I won't be able to function at work or with my family members or school or whatever it is that they need to be involved in. They're going to force themselves to focus on something else. And they start to think that if I stop distracting myself, if I cannot compartmentalize this, it's going to break me. So what they're really doing is they're running from the pain and not your past. They're not trying to forget about you. They're not trying to get over you. They're trying to escape the pain. Let's talk a little bit about avoidant deactivation after breakup. Minimize the relationship's importance. That is one of the things that they do. They minimize it. They say things like, yeah, it wasn't going to work out anyway. They remember all the negative things and they play that over and over and over. And this isn't for you to reach out to them now and remind them of the good times. Let them go through this process. The quicker they can go through this process, the quicker they're going to start to think about the relationship itself and process the relationship and their decision to leave. I've often said this, your best bet in an ex returning is respecting the space that they need, respecting what it is they want. Let them think about this. Let them come to a conclusion. Is this the right decision or not? If they choose to leave, as painful as it is, respect that. If they choose to return, learn to set your boundaries so you don't fall in the same trap and continue this push-pull cycle. Things have got to change if you want to have a new outcome. As a part of their deactivation, they suppress their attachment feelings. All of these fears, the need to be in a relationship. Yes, avoidant attached persons, fearful avoidant especially, they want to be in a relationship. They want a healthy, happy, long-term relationship. They just move at a different pace. And when the other person in the relationship is moving too quickly, they start to activate their deactivation because they're afraid of feeling smothered. And yes, they're going to meet an anxious attached person and it's going to feel abnormal for them because they're used to the chaos. But these are the relationships that stand a chance. An avoidant and a secure can actually work through difficulties and conflicts and resolve matters in the relationship so that they can have a healthy relationship. And an anxious attached and a secure attached person can also do the same thing. It all depends on how emotionally intelligent, aware, and present that person is. In an avoidant deactivation stage, they also focus on your flaws, like I mentioned earlier, to justify leaving. They're going to say things like, yeah, we had all of these differences. We were fighting all the time. And those are reasons we may not want to be in a happy and healthy relationship. However, with the avoidant attached person, when they're going through a breakup, they focus more on the negative. And the reason you want to give them space after the breakup is so that they could get over this. Get over the long laundry list of negatives, and they could finally calm their nervous system down and start to think clearly, where they're going to say, wait a second, yeah, I'm kind of blowing this out of proportion. It's not as bad as I initially thought it was. But in order for them to get to that place, you have to stay away from them. You have to give them the space and the time to go through their process, which is very different from that of an anxious attached style person or a secure attached style person. In their deactivation, they're also convincing themselves that they're fine alone, which is true. They are fine, but that's only part of the truth. They want a relationship. Who doesn't? We're social animals. The difference between an avoidant and secure, an avoidant and a secure attached person, and an anxious attached person is that an avoidant and secure attached person, they want a relationship, they don't need one. And a secure attached person needs a relationship. And that's where we need to do the healing work. We don't want to need another human to be in control of how we feel. We can want someone to be a part of our lives. As a part of an avoidant deactivation strategy, they also bury their emotions under productivity or new people. So when you see them like really busy at work, they're spending more hours there, they're deactivating. If you find out that your ex started dating shortly after a breakup, they're deactivating. All they're doing in that time is trying to survive, trying to breathe above water. So they're grabbing to any and everything to stay afloat. It's survival. This is really a defense mechanism. Each and every step here, it's a defense mechanism. And it's not always the case, especially with avoidant attached persons who are emotionally aware and working on their healing. So they may not jump into dating pools again soon after. They may not bury themselves in work. They may not minimize the relationship's importance or suppress their feelings. So every avoidant, just like every anxious is not the same, every avoidant attached person is not the same. Let's talk a little bit about why they deactivate. Their childhood taught them that emotions are dangerous, that they shouldn't depend on anyone, that they should process things alone, that vulnerability equals weakness, that they need to keep moving in order to survive. They learned from a very, very early age. By the age of 4, they mastered this. They learned that they need to disconnect in order to cope. Your job is not to think that you can change them. Your job is just to respect this process. If you want to have a relationship with an avoidant attached person, and I'm just going to add a secure attached person too, you want to respect that individual's process. It's not going to be the same as yours. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or it's worse or you're better or not. It just means we have different ways of processing our emotions. What I have learned is that avoidant attached person can deeply love someone and still not reach out after the breakup. They can love you and still appear to be moving on quickly. They can love you and suppress all their feelings about you. They can deeply love you and act like nothing happened. The thing is that the love existed, but the coping mechanism is just stronger than the expression. Their need to cope and survive is so much stronger than the power of the love right now. Notice I'm saying right now. Here's what often happens. A few weeks or months later, when they finally feel safe enough to process, and that happens really if you're not chasing, then they're going to have to sit with those emotions because those emotions are going to hit really hard. The grief is going to surface, and that's when the loss becomes real. But by then, you've moved on, and as you should. You should never sit around and wait for someone to come and choose you. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between how the anxious processes information or emotions and how the avoidant goes about. Let's talk about the anxious attached first. They're going to feel everything immediately. And like I said, I remember it's crushing. It's painful. They're also going to process out aloud. We talk to our friends about our breakups. We talk to any and everyone. I remember going through a breakup and walking down the streets of New York searching for a therapist. And that was the beginning of my healing with a therapist. I just so needed to stop that pain as quickly as I possibly can. So we process out loud. We talk to our friends. We cry about it. We also need connection to heal. So this is the reason we reach out to an ex, because we want their comfort. We reach out to our own exes, past exes, to find some sort of validation that we weren't wrong. So we need connection. We may go out with friends and we grieve visibly. People will see us cry. That's what an anxious attached person goes through. That is what the world sees. A secure attached person, now this is who I used to be. Now as a secure attached person, I act a little bit more like an avoidant attached person, or I would act a little more like an avoidant attached person should I go through a breakup. I wouldn't delay feelings, but I'm going to put aside some time to grieve. An avoidant attached person will delay their feelings. They process things alone. Whereas a secure attached person will meet with a therapist. They probably talk about it with their friends, but not too much. They know that their friends are also going through, their own life issues. And so they wouldn't put too much on a friend. An avoidant attached person needs space to heal. A secure attached person, they can hang out with their friends, and they are also going to take space to heal. Their grieving is not something that you're going to see. It's very invisible. A secure attached person, they're going to decide on how much they're going to share with the public and how much they're going to keep to themselves. It's more of, having a balance of things or having some sort of control of their emotions when they're securely attached. They also have a different timeline. The avoidant attached will have a different timeline to healing or processing their emotions than an anxious attached. So the anxious attached will start processing as soon as the breakup happens. The avoidant attached person, they're going to delay their processing time. They're different ways of processing, but they're still very real. It's real for the avoidant. It is real for the anxious attached. If you're an avoidant attached person and you're listening to this podcast, here's what you're losing by suppressing. You want to process the relationship so that you could get back to a healthy lifestyle sooner than later. You want to learn from that experience sooner than later. You want to grow emotionally sooner than later. You want to start the grieving process in a healthy manner sooner than later. You want to be able to connect with your own feelings, and none of this can happen if you're distracting and suppressing. As an avoidant attached, you're not winning by appearing fine, you're just delaying the growth process. And again, I want to remind all of us that this is not all avoidant attached persons. There are many avoidant attached people who are getting help quietly. Remember, avoidant attached people are not there shouting about what they're doing and what they're not doing. So we're not hearing about them doing the healing work on social media. They're looking at what's being said about them. They know they're being demonized. They don't feel good about it, but they're not people who talk a lot. We know this because that's the biggest struggle in relationships. My avoidant attached partner doesn't communicate, right? We've heard this so many times. So they're not doing it on social media. So you don't know who's coming in for support and who's not. And I've said this many, many times. Majority of my clients are avoidant attached persons. They sign up because they want to learn how to heal their attachment wounds and how they can be better for their partners. An anxious attached person sign up for help. It's not for them or the relationship. They want to know how they can make their partner do what they want them to do so that the anxious side of them can be less triggered. But avoidant attached people are doing the work. And, it's just a matter of time before you find one of them who is emotionally present and aware and intelligent to have a relationship with. Relationships with avoidant attached, insecure attached can work. It is going to be a struggle when you're anxiously attached. When I was anxiously attached, my partner and I struggled. It was only until I really got a good grip on my secure attachment, when I started to really do some healing on my own anxious attachment, that we got to the place where we are right now. Now, what you want to know is that with all of the information that's being shared with you here, it doesn't mean that you have to sit and wait for your ex. It doesn't mean that an avoidant attached person's behavior was acceptable or is acceptable. It doesn't mean that you need to rescue a partner from their patterns, and it doesn't mean that you are responsible for their healings. This is just information for you to have empathy and know that, wait a second, this is just a human being struggling with their own crap from their childhood. It's not something that I need to take personally. It's not something, they're not attacking me in any way. This is just their processing, but now I need to set boundaries with myself, and I'm not going to sit around and wait, and their behavior is not acceptable, and I'm not going to rescue anyone from their patterns, and I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm not their therapist. I'm not here to heal them. So in being able to say that to yourself, you're setting your boundaries. This information is to let you know that an avoidant attached person is not a monster. They're wounded just like an anxious attached person. If we could keep this in mind, we can build better relationships with people of any attachment style. If you're anxiously attached and you're listening to this, I'm guessing you are, stop checking to see if they've moved on. Stop needing them to be visibly hurt just for you to know that they're hurt. Just know that they're human beings. Just like you can't forget them, they haven't forgotten you. Stop making their processing style about your worth. If they have pulled away and they're quiet and they're buried in their work or hanging out with their friends, that is how they process. You do it differently. It doesn't mean that you're worthless or they're worthless. They're coping differently than you, and that does not erase your past with them. What you want to do right now is focus on your healing. Stop monitoring theirs. That's their business. Let them be. The difference with someone who's never cared and an avoidant who's suppressing their emotions, let's dig into that just a little bit. Someone who never cared genuinely doesn't feel anything. And yes, they were probably using you for whatever reasons. Again, their business, not your worth. They move on because they think you're replaceable. You need to know that you're not. Avoidant attach who are suppressing, they feel too much to process right now, so they distract themselves. They care deeply but can't or couldn't sustain that emotion that's needed for a relationship. And their moving on is really a trauma response. It has nothing to do with your worth. How do you know the difference? That's a question, right? So how do you know that moving on isn't because they didn't feel anything, or moving on is because they just feel too much? You already know. You have a gut feeling, a knowing. And one of the things we want to do when we're healing our attachment style is to get back in touch with that gut feeling like we knew when we were kids. If you have an avoidant attachment style and you want to heal, these tips are going to be for you. Stop running from your emotions. They're scary. They're painful. The anxious attached knows it too. But running from those emotions won't get you anywhere. Allow yourself to grieve. Sit with that pain 5 minutes at a time until your body starts to see that you're going to be okay. Process the relationship honestly. Try to make changes for the next one. Stop minimizing what mattered. You could have had a great relationship, and at the same time, you quarreled too much. Both of it could be true. Own them all. Feel the loss instead of burying it. Go through your grieving process. The last thing you want to do is to get into another relationship and you're grieving the old one. It is not fair to anyone. And it only puts a lot of strain on a relationship, on a new relationship. You also want to get professional help to break this pattern. And remind yourself that suppression isn't strength. It's really suffering in silence. And if you have an anxious attachment style and you really want to heal, you want to stop needing anyone to hurt visibly before you can know that you were worth missing. Stop checking their social media. If it's hard for you to do, just tell yourself you're only going to look once a day until you get to a point where you're not doing that anymore. Stop waiting for people to wake up. If they wake up, good. If they don't, decide on what's next, but you focus on you. Process your grief in your way. Recognize that their coping does not equal your value. Whatever they're doing has nothing to do with your value or your worth. And move forward regardless of their timeline. If they should come back, you will decide then. There is no need to make a decision right now. Get up and keep moving forward, because both anxious and avoidant, you need and deserve to heal on your own terms. If you haven't yet subscribed to this podcast, please do so that whenever a new episode comes out, and a lot of them are going to be popping out in New Year, you're going to be the first to know. Don't forget to share, leave a comment, please leave a review. It really, really helps this podcast to move to people who needs them. And I thank you so much for your support. Until the next episode, I'm your host, Annalisa Bahadur.